Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Peace on the Streets Radio Show with your host, Prince of the South.
And your girl, Mimi.
Hey. What's up, family? I'm your boy, Prince of the South.
And I'm your girl, Mimi, and we're from Peace on the Streets Radio Show. Guys, tune in every Wednesday, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time, Darby Quiet Storm on WOKB. And you know we broadcast live with Mr. Andrew Darling.
That's our boy.
So we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, don't forget, subscribe now.
That's it. Subscribe immediately.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Darling, thank you for being with us.
We appreciate you.
By the way, we had Monique Roel here 2 weeks ago or a week ago.
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and she did an amazing job. She actually explained how the system works and how she made changes and pretty much introduced herself a little bit more to our city, to our state.
Yeah.
You know, we're being watched right now in Orlando, so we want others to understand it's so important to vote.
Yes, it is. And make sure you look them up before you vote. Don't just give out your vote. Make sure they stand for what you stand for. And so that's what we like about you, brother.
Hey, I
you
appreciate
stand for the people, man.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
So please
tell us who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah. So my name is Andrew Darling. I am an attorney here in Orange County, Florida. I'm a candidate for Orange County Sheriff. My entire platform is criminal justice reform. So it's basically changing the system from its very foundation.
Okay.
Which in the criminal justice system, that foundation is law enforcement.
Yes. So
exactly.
do you think it's broken? Do you feel like it's broken?
The system is working exactly how it was intended to work.
Correct.
There you go.
So the only way you change it, law enforcement being the foundation, if you have a faulty foundation, you don't go to the second story of a house. You don't go to the roof of the house and try to fix that.
Right.
You have to knock the house down.
That's it.
And you have to change the foundation.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. I want to bring trust into policing. Like, you can't say back into policing because where I grew up, there wasn't trust.
Right.
And now, there generally still isn't trust.
Exactly.
And particularly with everything that's going on in our country right now, law enforcement is in a tough position.
Yes, it is. You have to clean up or move out.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, people are they're not giving it a second chance anymore. Hey, man, we got to clean it up. And I found out something the other day that they're going back from 1950. And if you have a lot of charges as a cop and you got a lot of stuff pending against you, they're starting from 1950.
Wow.
Yeah, so I like that. We got to clean it up.
So this wasn't like that before?
In the state of Florida, we're fortunate in that we have very broad public records laws, which means you can request, as a member of the public, law enforcement's internal affairs file for individual officers. Where they get you is, if it's a big file and it's going to take them a little while to get it, you're going to have to pay for that.
Okay.
So that's sort of how they get you. If you have a group of people in the community and they're saying, Officer so-and-so is continuously a problem for us, he's continuously using excessive force, but you guys don't have the funds to pay for the records,
right?
It's a problem.
So what you gonna do? What you gonna do? We done heard so much, man. I done heard so much since 1960. What people say they gonna do. What's your agenda, brother?
So, like I said, my entire platform is reform.
Okay.
And it's reform in that I'm not somebody who's a career law enforcement officer. I spent 7.5 years in the military. Like I said, I'm a criminal defense attorney.
Okay.
But y'all, my wife is black.
Okay.
My kids are biracial.
Right.
I understand that the way I go through the world is not the same as the way my wife and my kids are going to go through this world.
Right.
Changing a system is not going to come from somebody who is within that part of the system. It's not going to come from a career law enforcement officer.
Right.
It's just not. And some of the things that I want to implement, right? Treating kids like kids. It sounds simple. It makes sense. But when you find out that in 2019, the only full year under our current sheriff, 65% of youth who were eligible for what's called an alternative to arrest, they were eligible for either a ticket, a summons, a notice to appear. 65% of those youth who were eligible were arrested by the Orange County Sheriff's Office.
So how would they know they're eligible?
So their type of offenses, most of them are misdemeanors. Some of them do include what we would classify as violence. So fighting is a battery.
Okay.
Some of them are domestic violence issues where sometimes there's a parent and their kid and they get into an altercation. It could be something as simple as the parent is calling law enforcement because they took their kid's phone and the kid snatched the phone back.
Right.
And that's domestic violence.
Is it? Okay, that
Wow.
still consists of domestic
It counts
violence.
because there's a
Okay.
battery, you reached, you grabbed your phone, or whether you touched your parent or not, it doesn't matter. That meets the description because it's something that's in the possession of the parent.
Yeah.
So we have to begin with treating kids like kids.
Because you're messing them up from the start. Now it's an uphill battle. When you give a kid a charge, and right now, if you have a felon, I mean, it's hard to get a place. People don't want to hire you. You know, it's an uphill battle. So what
For the
happens
rest
is
of
with the
their life.
system, it's killing them at the beginning. When you're 16, 17 years old, it's giving you charges. And guess what? The system is crazy. It's set up to look at, did he have a issue at 16, 17 years? Yes, he did. He can't get this job. He can't. You're hurting them from the beginning. You're crippling them. So I love what you have going
Yeah,
on,
absolutely. It
brother.
does start
You know.
from there.
One of the so that's my focus on youth to include. So state law requires that there's a deputy in schools. It requires it. I don't think deputies should be in schools.
Okay.
I don't. But state law requires it, so we're going to be there.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm going to do is I am going to take our deputies, and they're going to be in schools. They're going to have a different uniform. So they're not going to have the same uniform as a deputy on the street.
Okay.
Because you're not on the street. You're
Right.
in the school in the absolute worst case scenario. We need more social workers. We need more counselors in our
Yeah.
school than
Right.
we do law enforcement officers.
sure.
But since they're going to be there, it would be a wasted resource to not have them in the school engaging with the community, engaging with the kids.
Most definitely.
So we're going to put them in a normal, like a professional school, like something a teacher would wear. So khaki pants, polo shirt, school colors, school resource
But
officer.
you know
on the
that's
back.
Officer Bob over there. He's
But you know
cool.
who he is.
He's a good guy.
I get it,
He
yeah.
give you a break. And see, that's what happened back in the days. They would police when if they saw me doing something wrong, which they did. I'm just using myself, but I was scared of my people to death. But anyway, they saw you. They'll take you to your parents' house and say, "Hey, so and so, what's up to deal with him?" Before they give you a break. But now with the system is set on going to jail.
Yeah, there's no break. I mean, they're kids, they're adolescents, they're growing up. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's straight, it's harsh. There was an incident with 13-year-olds that were arrested for jaywalking behind a trail that wasn't even a main street or a busy road. They were only 13, and they now have felony charges against them.
Unbelievable.
There are a lot of different ways that we can make our system better. So that was just for children, right?
Gotcha.
Going into sort of the rest of society, right? I want to stop arresting people for misdemeanor offenses. So if you have a traffic stop
Right.
and you find out that you either are driving with a suspended license, you don't have a valid driver's license, you don't need to go to jail for that. Like, yes, we cannot let you drive if we know your license is suspended. And that makes perfect sense.
But I didn't even know, you have to go to jail immediately. I thought
Well,
they had
a
an
lot of
option.
time.
Maybe yes,
so it's
maybe
the
no.
option.
They're
It's an option.
They have
It's an
discretion. So they have discretion. Right now, most of the time in misdemeanor circumstances, whether it's for a petty theft, so if somebody went into a Walmart and, I hate using the example of somebody was trying to steal food to feed their babies, right? That is terrible. That is tragic. That does happen, right? I don't care if somebody goes in and they steal something for under $750, which is the limit now in Florida.
Is
Okay.
it? I
Okay.
thought it was 500.
It was $300 since the late 70s.
Okay.
And last year it recently changed to $750.
Okay.
So if they steal something for under $750, right? They should be trespassed from the store.
Right.
They should absolutely have to face the charges for that, right? But there's no need to take them to jail.
not arrested.
Gotcha.
If you're already in a position where you're stealing, right? Whether that's to make a living or if it's just to provide whatever you think you need to provide for your family, right? You're already in a pretty bad economic situation. Most folks aren't getting rich off of stealing $300 or $400 items from Walmart. You're just not.
Yeah. For sure.
And plus, Walmart has insurance on everything.
But here's the crazier part, right? So think about this. Say you're walking around Walmart and you try to snatch a camera. Or you try to snatch even a phone in a box, $500, right? $600. And they catch you as you're leaving the store.
Right.
Did they actually lose anything?
No.
They got all their stuff back.
Yeah.
So they should absolutely be trespassed from the store. The person who commits that offense should absolutely be trespassed from the store.
Gotcha.
And they should face charges.
Right.
But they don't have to go to jail for that.
Uh-huh.
There's no $700 item anywhere that's worth going to jail for.
Right.
Because then you got to go to jail, and let's say that person, they stole something because the most they had in savings was $1,000, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to assume that most folks that are out stealing probably don't have $1,000 in savings.
Okay.
Okay, that's an assumption.
Right.
I think it's a pretty safe assumption, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if they had $1,000, say you go to jail, say it's 9 o'clock in the evening. You don't get around to first appearance till early in the morning.
Right.
So what they have something that's called a bail schedule or a bond schedule. Based on your offense, there's a particular set amount that if you pay that, you can bond out before your initial appearance.
Right.
So if you go in and it's a petty theft and it's $500 and you have $500 somewhere in savings or something,
Right.
well, now you don't have that $500 to hire an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you only paid $100, to bond out, you're never going to get that $100 back. So you just say, if you're able to bond out for $500, right, and you pay your $100 to the bondsman, they cover the rest of it, you're never getting that $100 back.
Not at all.
If you pay the full cash bond, that $500, that's now $500 that you do not have until your case is completely over with.
Wow.
So you're in a worse situation,
Mm-hmm.
and you still have to face the charges.
Right.
We can have people face the charges.
Uh-huh.
You can have people who have to be accountable for their actions.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But we don't have to dig a hole for them.
Give them a court date.
That's it. A ticket, a summons, or a notice to
It's
appear.
just numerous. It keeps going. It keeps extending.
Yeah.
It's like you're stuck in it for years after the fact.
But then, they get paid. Every time someone comes through those doors, they get paid.
That's what it is. There's more to it, and that's why you're here to be able to explain that and discuss that. Like how I want others to understand the system, okay? But the importance of voting and where it starts, because everyone is speaking about now changing the system. It starts here, and this is what I want others to understand where it starts.
With your city officials. That's most important. The presidency is that's important too, but right here at home where it affects you and your family. That's why we're telling you guys, make sure you vote all the way around the board and make sure you look them up and make sure they're fighting for what you need in your city and what you and your family need. And so that's why we bring you on. And if you're not powerful and trying to make a change, we really don't even want to hear you.
But it really starts from the system itself.
Yeah, so
Please explain the system itself and what you're trying to do to make this change, how you can do it for others.
So what I will say is just really quickly, like you guys can find me anywhere on social media at Reform Sheriff, which I think should tell you everything you need to know about a system. If in 2019, when I decided I was going to run for sheriff, if Reform Sheriff was still available. That should tell you everything you need to know about sheriffs throughout this country.
I saw a great clip of you, by the way. And who were you sitting next to?
When?
Oh, he was in law enforcement, and I know he was...
So the current sheriff, his name's John Mina. He's the former Orlando Police Department chief. The Orlando Police Department, from I believe it's 2013 to 2019, had the most excessive use of force cases per capita. So based on population throughout the country, the Orlando Police Department had the most excessive use of force cases.
Throughout the country?
Throughout the country. So
Orlando.
it's like 2.5 times worse than Los Angeles.
I'm just at Los Angeles, Oakland.
6 times worse than New York, and like 8 times worse than Chicago.
Wow.
And that's here. Like that's right here in Orange County in Orlando.
We
So
need to vote.
those stats from 2019 about the juvenile arrests, that's Sheriff Mina's Sheriff's Department.
Interesting.
And he penned a letter in the Orlando Sentinel yesterday about how he's going to be an agent for change. Like he's had 6 years.
Right.
He was the OPD police chief for 4 of them.
Right.
He's been the sheriff now for 2 years. If he was going to use his position of power, if he was going to show real leadership, he would have already utilized that change.
That would have been his main motivation a long time ago. Not everybody want to jump on board now.
So, and this is what I will caution people. Be careful about the folks who are telling you they're going to change now. Like, be careful about the folks who are showing up to rallies only to talk about themselves. I've been going to these protests and these rallies for 2 weeks. Yesterday was the first time I talked about my campaign.
Gotcha.
And I only talked about my campaign because I was invited by the people who set up the event to come talk because they know me. Like, I'm from here.
Yes.
Like, this is my community.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So they were like, listen, we need you to talk because, a lot of the young folks, a lot of these protests are full of young people.
Yes,
I mean, like
yeah.
under 25, young people.
Yeah.
Wow.
All races, all backgrounds, all his.
That's a beautiful thing.
It is
Isn't it?
amazing.
I love
Saying.
it. 2 thumbs up, you guys. Keep protesting. I love it.
And what I would say is, I care about. So there's a little distinction, right? It's you want to be careful of the people who come in and say they're going to do all these things for you, right? I come to it from a place of I am from here. I am from the community. So if I'm going to do things for the community, it's not because I'm coming here from the outside, like, let's go do this, this, and this. It's because I'm from here and I know what needs to change.
Right.
That's the reason. That's the purpose. I'm not running for office because it's solely going to benefit me. It does benefit me. Like, that's a reality, right?
Yeah.
It puts me in a position
For sure.
where I'm going to have much more authority, much more power than most people. And that's the reality. But I'm not I can go stay with my law firm. I will make, it looks like this year, I will make roughly 6 figures in my law firm.
Gotcha.
So I can stay in my first year in business. If I only cared about me and I didn't care about this community, I would stay in private practice.
Right.
Because what would somebody who's a military veteran and an attorney, why would they want to go clean up the sheriff's office? It's not about me. It's about us. It's about this community. And I care so much about that I'm willing to get out there and lead and set an example that hasn't been set before. And not just for this county, but for the state and for the country. Because we have an opportunity. If I'm elected sheriff and Monique Worrell is elected state attorney, we have an opportunity to become the most progressive, criminal justice reform-minded county in the country.
Well, in the country.
In the
Wow.
country.
I know that I think you guys can really you see eye to eye within that change.
Yeah.
They have to work together, to make that change. I think that's such a beautiful thing. This is why we actually were referred from that party over to you, and then we found out more about you, and you're from here. You've seen what has gone and what has been going on.
Yeah.
You've seen the growth. I hope, right?
Yeah.
But you also know that there has to be a change. There's never really been a change. We've seen a lot out here we already know about, and we already know the cities, what to watch out for. And so we want, it's happening now, guys. The change is in process now.
For sure.
We already see this in motion, but I just want everyone to understand where it starts. It starts here. It starts through a legal system and over to our attorney. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
They have to make this, have to seal the deal.
If you want to truly change your community, it starts in local elections. And it starts in putting people in positions of power who have not been mouthpieces for a decade.
Right.
Who are not the hand-chosen people from the other elected officials who have maintained the status quo their entire times in office.
Right.
And let's put it like this. Sheriff Mead was just elected in 2018 in a special election that he had to run as non-party affiliated because he wasn't a Democrat long enough to run as a Democrat.
Really?
So now 2 years later, there are 5 people in the primary race, including myself. If he was doing even a remotely competent job, you think 4 other people would be running against him?
No.
No.
There's not a chance. I'm the only candidate who is an attorney. I am the only candidate who is not a career law enforcement officer. I'm the only candidate who's from here and has never been part of locking people up and throwing away the key.
That's what we talking about.
That's it.
I like that.
That's what we needed from the outside, just so you're clear-minded.
Yeah, there's do you guys know who Randy Moss and Terrell Owens are, right?
Of course.
So Randy Moss is one of the greatest receivers of all time. I am still a Jerry Rice fan myself.
Right.
I think
Best
he's
in the business.
ever.
Best
right?
in the business.
Yeah.
So there was a question somebody asked Randy Moss in the prime of his career, and they said, "You and Terrell Owens, right? Which one of y'all are better?" And Randy Moss thought about it for a second, and I'm a 49ers fan. I'm I like T.O. a lot.
Yeah.
And Randy Moss explained it the same way that I'm going to explain it to the public about the other candidates in the race. Randy Moss said, I can do everything T.O. can do. T.O. can't do everything I can do. And it's the same thing in my race.
Mm-hmm.
I can do everything they can do.
Right.
They can't do everything I can do.
That's what we need, change.
And they're not willing to do the things
nice
that I'm going to do.
Gotcha.
And this movement, like, the time is now.
It's beautiful. It's
absolutely.
wonderful.
The time is now.
Yes, you guys look outside what you normally see. Check out all the candidates.
Yeah, absolutely. And from Peace on the Streets, Mr. Andrew Darling, we really
Yeah.
appreciate you being with us multiple times as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
We hope to see you actually on wherever you're at when you're speaking. We
Yep.
would love to be there.
I appreciate it.
We were there at the protesting where we saw Monique all in person.
Yes.
And her speech was insane. And the fact is just knowing you guys and seeing what you've done
Yeah.
and being a part of your process is amazing.
Yeah,
It's
we love
fun.
it.
It's fun.
Yes.
Absolutely. So again, how can we check out your website or your social media handles so everybody can look into you?
Yeah, so on all the social media, so Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, just search at Reform Sheriff. Yes, you can search at Reform Sheriff on Facebook. It'll come up just the same. Or you can go to andrewdarling.com. And let's keep in mind now, too, I am an underdog in this race. I am an outsider. Any donations that you can throw my way, listen, I appreciate it. Listen, if it's that extra $5 that you didn't go spend on coffee tomorrow morning, I appreciate that. If it's the full max contribution of $1,000, I am incredibly grateful. Honestly, I feel the same about either amount. I really appreciate it. AndrewDarling.com or at Reform Sheriff on all the social medias. I don't have a TikTok. I should probably get one of those.
We have one.
That's right.
Look us up.
Peace on the streets, you guys.
Thank you so much again. It's amazing and it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes.
And you'll be back on our show as well?
I hope so. As long as y'all keep inviting me, I'm going to keep coming.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Like we really love outside. We love it. We love independence. We love people come from the out coming in because this is the change we need.
Yes.
Thank you again, guys. Peace on the Streets Radio Show. Don't
Yep.
forget subscribe to our YouTube channel, Peace on the Streets Radio. Ciao.
Peace on the streets. We out, you guys.
With Prince to the south and your girl meet me, and they make it look way too easy. Peace on the streets, you gotta listen to Peace on the Streets, so you gotta tune in. Wednesday night, 9 to 11, get with the movement. Promise you and I regret it, with no hesitation. Yeah, yeah, grab your lady, just turn to the station. WOKB 1680 AM. Peace on the streets, you gotta listen to Peace on the Streets. Peace on the streets, you gotta listen to Peace on the Streets.